Hello, it's Derpy again. I figured I'd do another little war story. This time we didn't do the USS New York, which you can see on the screen now. I figured what I'd do, I took a couple of hours of footage, I've chopped them down just to give you something interesting to watch in the background while I'm having a little bit of a chat. So yeah, I am currently blasting things from long distance, as you can see there. This game I think actually went quite well. Some of the ones later on you're going to see ends quite badly for me because I got a bit outnumbered. But I do like the New York, it's a good ship, handles quite nicely. When you first get it, it's a bit of a beast, it doesn't exactly turn quickly, never really gets much better at turning, but it is a battleship, so you've got to forgive it that. So yeah, let's crack on with it. USS New York, it was built in about 1914 I believe, it might have been 1912, can't remember off the top of my head. Not too good with their numbers, to be completely honest with you, and already sort of scratched the surface talking about it with one of my previous videos where I was fighting with John, as it was a coal-powered ship and one of the first ships to have 14-inch guns mounted to it, so it was a bit of a beastie. They had a bit of a punch. Supposedly, unlike you can see there, it was one of the best ships for accuracy in the US Navy. It was mostly because it was used as a training ship, so the guys on it were training to hit stuff when they were firing, so obviously it's going to be a little bit more accurate than usual. Let's see what I've got from my notes. In the First World War, it was most notable for actually having sunk a submarine. I don't think it was 100% confirmed which submarine it sank, because they weren't too sure what they hit when they hit it. I say when they hit it, they actually ran into it. They were part of a convoy, and they were attacked by submarines, and during part of the attack, the ship was actually rocked by an underwater impact, and then a few seconds later another underwater impact on its rear end, which damaged one of its propellers. And you may be thinking, well, since they've been hit by a submarine, you know, they were in a bit of trouble, but they weren't. It's a battleship. It didn't sink, it just carried on chugging along with a damaged propeller. Now, you know, not entirely a bad thing when you're escorting a convoy, since they're not the fastest things in the world. So, you know, they lost a few knots in speed, chugging along. I think their top speed at the time was getting on for something near 20 knots. Probably wasn't quite 20 knots, near 20 knots. But the loss of this propeller meant they were down to about 12 knots, which actually worked in their favour, because later on when the convoy was attacked again, or sorry, should I say the battleship itself was attacked again on the way to harbour to be repaired, they were torpedoed again, and this time, luckily for them, because they'd been damaged, the commander of the U-boat that actually sent torpedoes at them misjudged their speed because they weren't on full steam. Well, should I say they were on full steam, but they weren't going as fast as he was expecting them to be because of the damaged propeller. All the torpedoes actually passed in front of their ship, and they didn't get hit at all. The other interesting thing about that little story is they never fired a shot. All the time they were under assault from this, you know, German U-boat, they never fired a single shot. Right, as you can see, my battleship, my New York here, is actually pretty beaten up. I've done pretty well at avoiding torpedoes in this game, like the real battleship. But the game's about to end, so we're going to swap over to another map in a second. And no doubt you'll probably see me getting set on fire again, because it seems to happen an awful lot in battleships in World Warships, sorry. I think it just seems to be their sort of predetermined state, is they see gunfire coming at them and there you go, you light up like a Christmas tree. So continuing the epic career of the USS New York, where it didn't fire its guns at all in World War I as far as I'm aware, or at least not in anger, we move on to Second World War, where it did a lot of escorting convoys and things, because it's quite an old ship at the time, and after numerous refits and things, adding AA guns, which actually goes along quite well with what's in the game, because to start with you've got next to no AA fire, and by the time you've ranked your ship up through the different refits and things you can do to it, the thing's like a, you know, a walking fortress almost. You know, you can just see there, I've shot down a couple of planes. They get near to you, they're falling out the sky. There's this, you know, there's no two ways about it, the amount of AA fire that comes off your ship. So yeah, eventually got sent out to the Pacific Theatre late in World War II, so 1944 we're talking, where again it suffered a loss of one of its propellers. it had to have essential repairs and rejoin the fleet later on, and then eventually got sent back to Pearl Harbor for some more refits, because, you know, it's an old ship, it needs constant refits. And while it was on the way back to Pearl Harbor, the war actually ended, so that was sort of end of its career. I mean, it was at Okinawa, bombarding the shore and letting the and she did actually survive the attack of Pearl Harbor. She was one of the 5 out of the 8 ships on Battleship Row that didn't get sunk, even though she was quite badly damaged and didn't return to service for about 4 weeks. But then again, what wasn't in Pearl Harbor, it was a bit of a foobar situation for the Americans, should we say. So yeah, that was the end of its career in World War II. Now, moving on to post-war, they actually used the ship, since it was quite an old ship and basically, you know, not really worthy for another world war. It'd been around for the best part of 30 odd years, fighting battles, numerous refits. So what happened was, in July 1946, it was used on the atomic tests of, let's see, 2 tests by the look of it, and yeah, they pretty much, you know, hit it with nuclear bombs and atomic bombs to see what would happen. It was then taken away for some more tests shortly after that, because they wanted to see what was going to happen when you hit a battleship with an atomic bomb. I couldn't have a pretty good guess at it being full of radiation and a bit broken, but there you go. You still got to find these things out one way or another. And then finally, in July 6th of 1948, it was sunk as a target. So a bit of a sad ending for the old girl, which is pretty much what's going to happen here in a few seconds. Unfortunately, I get lit up, since I'm more or less the only ship on this, apart from a couple of carriers, and absolutely wiped out. So yeah, while you're experiencing my New York get sighted by to yet again and blown to pieces, that's quite a common occurrence in World of Warships with me. I hope you've enjoyed my little story about the US New York. There's probably many more details which I've left out, but that's just sort of a little bit of an overview of the ship. As I said, I hope you've enjoyed it. Leave us a like and a comment, tell me what you think, and I'll catch up with you next time on one of these. Bye!